Hello everyone, Jen here for Jen DeBell Designs and Country Craft Creations with you today. And I am going to get started on my fall themed album. And if you saw my haul video, you know that I'll be using G45's Autumn Greetings, beautiful collection. And I'm also going to be using Craft Artisan Cardstock, which absolutely goes perfect with it. The album itself, I will put a link to the lay flat method below, but I wanted to go over what you will need for this specific album to do the lay flat method. This is a 7x9 by 2.5 album. So what you're going to need is 2 pieces of heavy chipboard at 7x9, 1 at 2.5x9. And then to wrap it for the papers, you'll need, like I said, I'm using Craft Artisan. These will be 9x11, so 1 for each piece of 7x9, 1 5.5x11, and then a 5.5 by 8 7/8 piece on the inside. Okay, and that will be our cover. So I'm going to get started with the first signature. There are 4, 2 of which are pocket page, and 2 that are not. They are regular pages with lots of flips and flaps. So signature 1, you will need a piece. We're just doing the base so far. So for the base, you will need a 7.25 by 9 3/4 and a 7 by 8 3/4. Okay. Now I had already scored this one, but I want to show you. So on the 7.25 by 9 3/4, put that in your scoreboard at the 7.25, and you want to score it 1/2 and 3/4. Okay. That's going to give us the 1/2 inch that goes on our spine inside the book and that little give space. Then you're going to flip it so that your 9 3/4 is here, and you just want to score it 1/2, turn it to the other end, and score at 1/2 on that end as well. So you have 1/2 on both ends, and then you have a 1/2 and a 3/4. And that's going to give you a 6.5 inch page, okay, by 8 3/4, which is what we want. So now what we're going to do, now I forgot to mention, I cut these corners out, so you don't need these pieces that were at the end when we did the 1/2 and the 1/4. Those ends you don't need, and then you can miter your top and bottom flap on all 4 sides. For the 7 by 8 3/4, you simply need to put this in your scoreboard at 7, and we're going to score that right at 1/2. Okay. Miter those as well. And I'm going to burnish this again because, like I said, I had a little boo-boo. That's why this one is already scored. And if you've written on your pieces, hopefully you're taking notes and writing down measurements if you're just watching this video all the way through, and then you're going to go back. That helps. But I'm giving you all of the measurements because I don't have a cut guide per se. But if you write them on the papers as you cut them like I do, which is mainly for your benefit, so you see what I'm doing, I always put it to the inside. Even though I'm going to cover a decorative paper, I still put it to the inside. I guess it's habit. So I'm going to set the base that has the 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. I've got my folded 1/2 inch here, and I just want to butt this up to the edge of that second score line, which is the end of our, it'll be the end of our 1/4 inch score line there. And we just want to get this in here so it all lines up. You don't want to go over that score line, but you want to get it as close to it as you can. And then we're just going to burnish that all out on the inside as well. And then we want to fold these in and burnish. These are our top and bottom. And we're going to add glue to both of these. This one does not feel very burnished to me, so we're going to do this one again. Add some glue. Not down there though. And then you just simply want to put this down And cutters and scoreboards sometimes don't line up with each other. And that happens, and it's not uncommon. And it's also not a problem to fix. Next, what this page has, I'm looking at my notes. This has a cascading flap system, and then it has a pocket across the bottom. So we are going to move these out of the way. So we're going to do the pocket first, which is going to be 7.5 by 3.5. And we're going to score this at half on 3 sides. So half, turn it to the long side, score it half, turn again, and score it half. And then with pockets, I prefer to just do my mitering across this cross section right here. Right where the 2 score lines make an X. And then I also miter the top 2. And this is what you end with. And again, I'm going to do all of my folding towards the side that I wrote on. Because I write all of my measurements when I cut. So it's easy for me to go over when I do these videos. All right, so there is pocket number 1. Now, if you choose to, you can add notches to these. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do that. I probably will, just because I like the look better and stuff comes out easier. So I will show you how I do my notches. I use envelope punch board. And we know we have 6.5 here, but what I want to do is butt this up and dry fit it. See, it's a little long, and I'm not quite sure why that's happening. I mean, it's fine if it hangs over just a teensy. I guess it doesn't really hang over that much. Might have to trim just a teeny bit off, because when you're turning pages, you don't want to have that as an issue. So what I'm going to do, it's a good tip, rather than cut, is I'm just going to move that score line, that second one there, which was this second fold, to the 7/8 mark. I'm just going to go over 1/8 of an inch. And that's totally fine if you need to do that. And then I'm just going to trim a little off so this isn't too much more than 1/2, because we don't want it to overhang. And I'm going to refold this and see where it's at. So now we are at 6 3/8. And I just want to see. I think it has a lot to do with the page that I'm working with. If it's a little shorter, it's better than if it's a little long. Unless you don't mind it sticking out your pages, I would suggest cutting it a little bit more. And I don't have enough of a miter here, so I am overlapping. All right, there we go. So I'm not going to glue this pocket down because I want to decorate first. So the pocket will go on the bottom of the page. I need to get my handy dandy paper clips out so I don't have to glue this up with a bunch of temporary glue. So I'm just going to do that. All right. The next portion, you're going to have 3 pieces to make our cascades. I need to move this. I'm in frame here. So you will have 3 sizes. You're going to have the large flap, which is 6 by 8 1/4. Medium is 5.5 by 8. Small is 5 by 7 3/4, and we will add a pocket to that small one. All you're going to do with these 3 is put them in lengthwise and score across the top. The medium one on the 8, score it half across the top. Small one, Same thing. We're going to go to that 7 3/4. We're going to score it half across the top. And then we want to miter these edges on all 3 of those flaps. All right, all mitered. Now, going to bring our book back in. Take the largest flap first. Pull down your 1/2 inch. And burnish. And then we're just going to add glue to that top flap. And I'm going to put this on my scoreboard because I kind of want to line this up as good as I can in the middle. So we have 6 inches. So I want to put this where I have 1/4 inch on either side, if that makes sense. And then I am just going to burnish inside and out. Okay. And you're going to take your medium flap, do the exact same thing. We're just going to fold our score line down and burnish. And add glue to that 1/2 inch. And I'm going to put this up again. And again, we should have 1/4 inch on either side. And you want to make sure that you go all the way up to the top so it turns, because if it's not all the way to the top, this flap won't move. And mine is a little off. I'm going to re-stick that. Stick that right by that 4. Alright, flip this open. All right. Oops, my pocket's trying to run away. And then our small, we're going to do the exact same thing again. Just fold down your flap, burnish, and add your glue. And I'm going to stick that on the 4 so I can see. And I'm going to line that right up with that 1/4 inch. I love using my scoreboard to line things up. It's a very helpful tool for more than just scoring, for sure. I'm going to go in. Okay. So then this page is also going to have a belly band that comes up, and it will magnetize to our pocket. And then the pocket this is going to be a little pocket on the bottom of the small flap. So this will be 6 inches by 3.5. And we're going to score this at 1/2. Turn, score at 1/2. Whoa. Maybe I should look at what I'm doing and not the camera, huh? And then turn again and score at 1/2. So again, we're scoring at 1/2 on 3 sides. We're going to miter this at the cross section. And that's what you end with. And we're just going to fold and burnish all those score lines down for our pocket. And I apologize, I will get back to the notching of our pockets. I'll probably notch this one. So what we end with here is 5 inches. And how I do my notches is I will simply just put this in, my envelope punch board, and I'm going to go to 2.5, which is going to line me up to the middle, and I'm going to punch. And I'll do the same thing with my decorative paper when I add this. Now, I am not going to glue this one down because, again, I need to do my decorating. So this will line up with this bottom piece here, and it will simply go right on the flap. And then there will be a belly band, and this is 2 by 4.5. You're going to put this in your scoreboard at 4.5, and we just want to score this at half. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and we are going to miter next to those score lines and fold. This time I'm going to leave the writing to the front. And the reason for that is because I'm going to cover it, and I'm not probably going to cover the back part. I may, but in this instance, I may not. So this we want to glue. When we glue the pocket down, it's going to go under it. So you technically want to get this one on first. Just going to add glue. This to be as close to the middle as I can get. I'm going to go ahead and use my Tim Holtz ruler just because I want to make sure that I'm getting this in the middle. 6.25 now is the middle. So I'm going to just take that and make sure the middle of this is pretty close to lining up with that middle 6.25. So I have that, and I have, yes. So I have about 2.25 inches on, almost 2.25 on either side. Okay. And I just want to put that down. And once this is all together and our pocket is on, go ahead and slide that back in there so you can all see where it goes again. So our pocket will be here. This will all come down, and then we will have a magnet under this that will hold all of this together, and there will be some sort of a card, one of the cut aparts most likely, 3x4 card, something of that nature. Okay, so that is all together. I'm going to go ahead and paper clip that even more, maybe not. I think it's fine. All right, so fast forward, we're going to go to side B. Side B is fairly simple. All it is a middle belly band. Okay, so for that you just need a 2 by 9 3/4. We're going to score this at half, and we're going to flip it around and we're going to score it at half again. And then we're going to miter those on both sides of both score lines. And fold and burnish. And this will simply go, once we've decorated, in the middle of the page like so. I'm not going to glue it down. Again, I'm going to have to decorate this. So I want to make sure that I show you where it goes. However, I'm not going to glue it down yet. Right, so now we are going to do signature 2, and signature 2 is not a pocket page, it's a regular page. However, if you want them all 4 to be pocket pages, you can. You would just make your pocket page like we did the first, and we will do the third. I am making 2 regular pages. They will have plenty of flips and flaps, so it will take up space, believe me. So what you will have is your regular page first. I'm going to move this out of my way, and these, which is going to be 7.25 by 8 3/4. Okay, we're going to take our scoring tool. I use this one, bone folder, and we are going to score this at 1/2 with your 7.25 at the top, and at 3/4. Get a good score on that, okay? So this is side A, and I'm just checking my notes here. Side A, we have a pull-out flap that will go from the right, and we have a vertical pocket. So the vertical pocket is going to be 7.5 by 3.5. Put that in at your 3.5, score it at half, turn, and score both ends at a half. So one long side and 2 of the short sides, okay? And then we're just going to do some mitering right at those cross sections where we did the scoring. Nice and burnished. And this is an 8 3/4 inch pocket. This does not seem tall enough. I think is it a side? Oh, this is not a vertical. I apologize. This is actually goes on the bottom of the page. So, give me 1 second. So that's going to go on the bottom of our page, not a vertical. It's another page I was thinking of. So once I have this all nice and burnished, this is going to be a 6.5 inch pocket. And for some reason, mine keep going a little bit over, and I'm not quite sure why that keeps happening. It's something to do with my cutter. I'm not really sure, but it does hang over my page just a bit. And that's okay. But if I'm going to notch these, then I would want it to be, you know, pretty close. But I'm not going to notch this one yet. I might when I do my decorating. This will go on the bottom, lined up with that score line, but don't go over the score line, just right up next to it. And I can see why this is a little over. My fold is not very good. So I'm going to fix my fold here and reburnish this. For some reason, I think I might need to clean my scoreboard, because I think some of these rails might have some yuck in them, because I don't have the piece that goes over the top. And so I think sometimes if I do any scoring or anything with glue or burnishing with glue, it gets on there. See, now it's perfect. Yeah, it was just over a little. So this one, because it's a bottom, you're going to want to go ahead and miter those top 2 flaps as well. Just give them a quick little miter so your pocket will look like this. And again, I fold everything inward so that you don't see my writing. I'm not going to adhere this because we're going to decorate. Okay, so we will adhere this when we decorate. The next part of this page, we will be able to adhere. This is a right flap. So this is going to go from one side of our, from the right side of our page. So this is 9.5 wide by 8 3/4. We are going to score this at 1/2 inch first, so we can adhere it to the page. I want to get a better, and then we're going to score it again at 5.5. Okay, take your 5.5 where we scored and fold that line back, and just make sure everything lines up before you do any burnishing. So this is going to fold back. And this will be, did I do that right? Yes. I'm losing it today. I'm telling you already. All right. I'm going to get this 1/2 inch gusset. Also burnished nicely. And then this is going to go on the right side here. Okay. So you're just going to want to make sure that's nicely burnished. So it's good and flat. And there's no need to miter if you don't want to, because this is going all the way down the length of our page. So I'm going to add glue to that 1/2 inch gusset. And then I am going to put this in this way. This is how I get glue all over my scoreboard, but it helps to use this to line things up because I don't want any overhang. See, perfect. And then we're just gonna push that down, open that up, and make sure that that's glued, completely adhered. If not, you can always add a little glue in spots. We will be covering it with paper. But that is how this side will work. And then we'll have our pocket underneath. And this is going to be heavy enough that we really don't need. Once there's paper on this gets pretty heavy. If I feel the need to put a magnet in, I'll do that in decorating. We may put a magnet right here just to hold all of this down. And then it would go inside here. But for now, I'm just going to leave it. So your pocket will go here. And this will be on top of it, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and paper clip that really quick. And we'll flip to side B. Now, side B is going to have it's going to be a flap. And this flap is going to have a waterfall on it. So this is a 5 by 8 3/4. You just want to score this at 1/2 inch. Which is going to give us a 4.5 by 8 3/4 flap. Okay. And we will make the waterfall next and add it when we do our decorating. But we will make the waterfall as soon as we adhere this. So this is make sure you're on the right side, flip this over, add glue to your 1/2 inch gusset there. And like I said, when we do decorating is when I will add the magnets in. It's a lot easier. So I just want to get this all butted up against and make sure everything's nice and straight, and then give it a good burnish inside and out. And it looks like I may have put mine on a little bit crooked, so I'm gonna pull mine off because my glue is not dry yet. Sometimes when I use my scoreboard it's helpful, and other times I think I'm better not using it. My paper kind of slips around a little bit. So I'm going to add glue to this again, but I'm just going to leave this in. I won't edit my boo-boo out this time. I'll just leave it in there. And I'm going to try this way. So I'm going to pick this. Let's see here. Yes. I'm going to pick this up and butt that up to that corner, butt that up to that corner. Yeah, that worked out better. Now everything is lined up better. All right. Give that a good burnish inside and out. And that will be this flap here, okay? So, let me just double check my work here. When we do our decorating, you will see that under that flap, we'll use a cut apart or something to make a little tuck pocket that will show on the edge. Like I said, I've made this a similar album that was for myself, and I had posted it somewhere, and a lot of people liked it and the style, so I wanted to redo it. I'm just making it larger and changing a few things to adapt it to the larger size. But that is our signature 2. And we will now make the waterfall that's going to go on that flap. So what you have here is 4 pieces of the Artisan Craft. One at 4 1/4 by 11 1/2, one at 4 1/4 by 10 1/2, one at 4 1/4 by 9 1/2, and one at 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. Okay. And I am going to take them large to small. Put them in at the length. So you want them all at the length. This one is the 11 1/2. I'm going to score this at 4. I'm going to flip this and I'm going to score it at 4 again. Okay, easy peasy stuff. I want to make sure I'm getting a really good score here, and sometimes I feel like I don't get a good enough score with certain bone folders, but same thing. This is our 10.5. We're going to score this at 4 and flip it around, and we are going to score it at 4 again. Both sides. This is our 9.5. We're going to score this at 4 and score it at 4. Okay. And last but not least is our 8.5. We're going to score that at 4, flip it around, and score that at 4. And you will see that leaves you with a 1/2 inch. Okay. Now to assemble this, we're going to flip our scoreboard sideways. Okay. Make sure I'm in frame so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to use the numbers across the bottom here, which would be the side if it was the other way. We're going to start by putting the 11.5 down, and you'll see that score line. Grab the 10.5 and go ahead and one side and fold. Let's see here. I'm going to do this way because my paper is not cooperating. All right. So now I got a good fold there. And what I want to do is I'm going to add glue to this entire section here, from score line to score line. And we're going to line this up with the 4.5 on the scoreboard. Okay. Give that a good burnish all through here. And then go ahead and put that back on. That didn't go on very straight now, did it? Let's fix that. Is that better? Well, I'm having a little issue here. It happens. I want this to line up, and it did not. So it needs to line up perfectly straight, or your next ones will not. And I don't know if it's a cutting issue. It might be a cutting issue, actually, because it's fine on this side. Okay. Grab your next one, which was our 9.5 inch piece. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to fold it in on one side on your score line. And we're going to add glue. Make sure it's lining up when you fold. I think that might be what I did, is I did not get good alignment before I burnished. So I'm going to make sure this time that I don't have any problems with that. Okay. Add glue, score line to score line again. And then put our piece back in. This time we want to line up with the 5. And make sure that you're in line before you do any burnishing. Because if it's crooked, you will know. And then finally, our last piece, they're going to do that same thing again. Just fold over at one side of that 1/2 inch. Make sure it's lining up nicely. And add glue to that 1/2 inch space. Or between our score lines. You don't want to get glue anywhere else. Make sure this is folded over each time. This time we will go to 5.5. And we will make sure everything is lining up. And then we can burnish. And then you can start to fold the second score line down. Just line them up before you do that. Don't push down or do any burnishing until these are in line with each other. It's It's very important or they will get off track. I love this method, but it did take me a couple tries to get it right. I saw one of the other designers do it this way, and it's so much easier than cutting individual pieces and doing the 1/2 inch thing. Now you can do it that way, the traditional waterfall. If that's easier for you, then you do you. Some people prefer it that way. I like this for mine. And I do see that one of mine is a little over on this side, which means I think I cut it a little bit too much. And that can be trimmed. So it's probably just a little bit more than the 4 1/4 that it's supposed to be. Let's see here. Yeah, it is. So I can just trim that out if I'm worried about it. Or I can go in and see if the problem is within my scoring, which it does seem to be that I put it off a little, but that's okay. A little bit of off is not going to hurt. If it was a major change, I would be more concerned about it. So just keep an eye when you're putting, see if you can see if I hold that up. I kind of put that one over just a little bit, but it's okay for this. I can trim it out later when I do my decorating. I'm not going to adhere this because, again, we need to decorate, but this will go on the B side on this flap, just like so. And it will have, I believe I did a ribbon closure. Let me see here. Yes, I did do a ribbon closure on this. So you will have your waterfall, and it'll be heavy enough that you don't need to put a magnet, and then it'll open like so. And I just did a ribbon underneath. I may change my mind once again and do a magnet when we do our decorating. But that is the end of signature 2. Next up, we will do signature 3, which is going to be our other pocket page. Let me just put these away. All right, so signature 3. Here we go. Signature 3. Flipping my page over here so I have all my notes. This is a pocket page again, and we're going to do it the exact same way we did the first one. So if you wrote that down, you already know the measurements. If you did not write that down, then I will go over them again anyways. So this is side A. Okay. So I'm going to pull all my pieces out for side A, and then all of my pieces on this side for side B, so I don't get any of these lost. All right. Again, our pocket page, you have a 7 1/4 by 9 3/4 and a 7 by 8 3/4. Okay. The 9 3/4, we want to put that in our scoreboard, score it at half at the 9 3/4, and I want to score it at half on both ends, and then I want to score, don't I need to score it? Yes. And then we're going to score the side with your 7 1/4 at the top at half and at 3/4. Okay. And then we're going to cut out what we don't need, which is this little area down here. You don't need that. So cut on the score line with your scissors and cut that little square off the bottom. Well, it's more like a rectangle, but we don't need it. So we're going to cut it out of there. And then just miter this one and the outside. You don't need to do any mitering on the 1/2 and 1/4 inch scored area. It should look like so, okay? Then for your 7 by 8 3/4, we are just going to score this at half. Hello, paper. Okay. Go ahead and miter those edges next to the score line on both corners that we scored. And this is going to go underneath here like so. Try to get a really good burnish on this, because pocket pages, sometimes if you don't get a really crisp 1/2 inch gusset, they will roll. See, mine did just a little bit, and we don't want that, because what happens when they roll like that is that it puckers, and we don't want that. So I'm going to re-score mine and just make sure I get, there we go, a good 1/2 inch score line. Okay, there we go. All right. So this is our base. I'm going to fold in your 2 end pieces, the 2 1/2 inch gussets. This is what we did on signature 1. Okay. And then we want to put this one in first. So I am going to line this up and take a look. Yep, it works. Okay, so we're just going to add glue to that 1/2 inch on our 7 by 8 3/4 piece that we scored at 1/2. And that piece needs to go right up against that score line, the second one. You don't want to go over it, and you want to get as straight as you possibly can. And check if there's any overhang. There is not, so I'm good there. I'm going to go ahead and burnish that line down, and then I can flip this open, burnish again, and then we're just going to take these two, make sure they're good and burnished, and we will add our glue to them, just to the flaps. Don't get any glue underneath the flaps, or your pages will stick together. You could also put the glue on the paper itself, but if you don't get it in just the right spot, again, your pages will stick together. We want a pocket here, so, all right. So I'm going to hold this one down, and it should pull in. I just want to make sure that everything is lining up. And this one wasn't, so now it is. All right. That is our second pocket page. All right. I did get a little tiny bit of pucker. I'm not quite sure why, but once we put stuff on this and in it, it'll weight it down. All right, so this one has a pocket and a drop top, so a drop flap. So the pocket, again, 7.5 by 3.5. I'm gonna go in and we're gonna score this at 1/2 on that 7.5. Flip it 1/2 with 7.5, and then put it at your 3.5. And you can either score it right at 3, or you can do the 1/2. Either way works. And go ahead and miter at your cross sections and at your top corners. Here we go. And then we're just going to get everything folded and burnished for the pocket. Probably don't have to show all this burnishing on camera, but why not, right? All right, so now we have our pockets. That will go on our bottom piece here. Perfect fit this time. I'm not gonna adhere it until we do our decorating. So that's that piece, okay? Next, you're going to have a flap piece, which I have stuff everywhere here. This piece is going to be 5.5 by 12. You're going to put it in on your 12, score this at 1/2 inch and at 9 inches. Okay, that's going to give us this little bottom portion. I'm going to make sure this is all lined up before I burnish. And then this is going to your top. So you're going to want to miter on either side of those score lines at the top so it looks like a tab, like so. And I'm going to go ahead and fold that down and burnish. And then we will change this into a, you know what? No, it's fine. I'm going to put paper on it. I'm going to change this to a double pocket. So you're going to want another piece that is 5.5 by 5. And that's just going to slide in here and it will be glued down just on the sides. Okay. So when we decorate, I will show you more of how that works, but I'm going to put it together. Again, that one's 5.5 by 5. And we can go ahead and adhere this portion. So the top piece here, our gusset that we made, we need to make sure that's really flat, really burnished. Add your glue to the gusset. And then we want to try to get this right in the middle of the page. So we have 5.5 on a 6.5 inch page. So I'm going to put this up to a number. I have mine at the 4. And I'm going to go over to 1/2 inch to give me a good idea. And then I will just pick it up once I have that centered so that I know I have 1/2 inch on both sides. And then I can flip it open and burnish. Ooh, maybe if I didn't let it slide, that was not good. Mine kind of slipped. Let's try that again. Might not have enough glue. Okay. To grab a rag, which I have lots. Just cut some new ones. All right. Not sure why that one's being cantankerous. So that's what you will have there. This is side A. You'll have your pocket and then a double pocket that flaps down. Flip to side B. And for side B, we have large flap. Oh, and our pocket flaps, yes. So for this, we're going to have a large flap and 2 what I call pocket flaps, okay? For the large flap, you're going to have a 5 by 8 3/4. We want to score this at 1/2 on the 5. No need for any kind of mitering here. We're just going to do it the way it shows. And okay, for the second portion, you're going to have 2 pieces. And I cut these to fit. So we're going to have 7 by 4 3/8. You just want to score both of these at 5 inches, okay? So 2 at 7 by 4 3/8, score them at 5. The bottom portion here is going to become a pocket. So you want to line those up nice and neat. I'm not going to glue them because, again, decorating. But I want to get them ready. So we have that, okay? Now, the next portion you're going to have is 2 pieces that are 1 inch by 4 3/8. Those 1 inch by 4 3/8 need to be scored at 1/2 inch, both of them. Okay, and then go ahead and fold and miter those on both ends. So I'm going to fold it, and then I am going to miter it on both sides. And I will show you what they look like in just a second here. Let me make sure I get all my folding done and all my mitering correctly. So what you will have is 2 pieces that look like this. And these are going to become gussets that will go on the page, and we will be able to adhere these before we decorate. In fact, we want to adhere these before we decorate, along with our page. So these are going to go on the back side of these, okay? So we want to line them up, put glue on one side so the fold is facing the same way this fold is. So we want this like so, okay? So I'm going to add glue to the top part of this. And I'm going to add it. Just going to hold on to it and put it up to the top of the score line. You want this to line up because this is going to go on the page and we don't want it to overlap. So if there's anything hanging off the ends, corners, or anything like that, just go ahead, trim those off. That one did not go on very straight. Put that down there a little bit straighter. Gotta add some glue. Full of boo-boos today. All right, just want to make sure that just goes all the way to the top, not over and not under, because we don't want to see it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the other one. Again, I'm adding glue to one side of the gusset we just made. And then I'm just going to hold it up against that edge with the pocket on the opposite side. Make sure it goes all the way up without going over. And then we have that. Okay, so bring your page back in. Make sure you're on the right side. So flip it from here. And I am going to move my paper clip over to the other side so that I have room to glue. Bring in your pieces. So these two pieces will adhere right next to our 1/4 inch all the way to the top. And this one will go all the way to the bottom. I'm just making sure these are going to line up and not overlap each other. Because if they do, I have to trim them, but they're good. Okay, maybe. I did them right at 4 3/8, so they should be. All right, I'm going to re-burnish this with both things on there so that it goes nicely. So here is our 1/2 inch. You want to put glue on that gusset. And then where your score line is, where that 1/4 inch is, we have our 2 lines. We want to get this all the way to the edge and right up to that score line. You need to make sure it goes all the way to the top of the page without going over, like so, but that it's right next to our score line for our give space when we put it in the book. So you'll have it up against, here's your 1/4, here's your 1/2. This will flap open like so. And let's go ahead and put the other one on. We're going to do the exact same thing, just doing a little more burnishing off camera. Gonna add that glue. And then we're gonna do the same. I need to move my paper clip though back to where it was for now. I want this again right to the top or the bottom of the page and right next to that 1/4 inch. But I also need it to line up with the one that's on the top. So we want to make sure these are in line, like so. Okay? Burnish that down a little bit better. And that is that. Now, once we get this decorated, these flaps will glue down. And then we have our flap on this side. Tags go in the pocket and they hold these closed, okay? So flip those over so they're out of the way. And then grab the flap that we scored, the 5 by 8 3/4 that we scored at half. And we're gonna go ahead and fold on the score line and burnish. And add glue to that 1/2-inch gusset. And we are going to put this right at the edge of the page, top and bottom, and line her up. And there we go. Slipped a little. Don't want it to go over on any portion. It's a little low, but that's okay. Nope, I went a little too far down. Sometimes I have to really look at that score line. All right, now we got it. Put that open. Get that really burnished. I don't think I have enough glue on that, but I can add more when we decorate. Okay, so my pocket keeps slipping. Again, what we will have, these will close like so. This will close over them. And it looks like this one is a little long. We may actually have to push this one up a little. I'm not sure why that is happening. They should not touch. I think I got my bottom one off just a little bit. I need to fix that. Another little tiny boo-boo that can be fixed very easily. I am just going to fix it real quick. I just got one corner down a little too far. And it needs to be even so that it doesn't brush up against that. There we go. Okay. You want this all in a, in a line because these are going to become pockets, and the pockets are going to have tags in them. So when this is closed, it will hold this door down. Okay. So you have your door, and then you have these two. Okay. So that is our signature 3. I'm going to put this back on here so I know what's A and B. And I'm going to put that one away, and we will finish up with signature 4, which again is not a pocket page, but you can make it one if you choose to. So I'm going to pull my pieces out here. This is side A. Oh no, this one is a, wait a second. Did I make the wrong pocket pages? The first one, yes, the first one was a pocket page. I did, I made too many pocket pages. Interesting. Okay, for some reason I cut this one as a pocket page. I'm not quite sure why I did that, but I don't need the 4th one to be a pocket page. So give me 1 second. I'm just gonna cut this piece down the way it should be. We should again have a 7 1/4. Is that right? 7 1/4. This needs to be 8 3/4, and I have 9 3/4. So bear with me for a second here. I'm just gonna cut the extra off of this piece, and then we have 3/4, 6 1/2. 7, yes. Okay. So you will have a 7 1/4 by 8 3/4. Again, if you want this to be a pocket page, you can make them all pocket pages. I just choose not to do that. I have 2, and I think that's plenty. So for this one, regular page, we're going to score it half. I'm putting it in at the 7 1/4, half, and 3/4. And that's going to leave you with 6 1/2. Yeah, just making sure I was correct. because I had to cut it, and sometimes I get off track when I have to do stuff like that. All right. So then, for side A, what we have is a flap. It's going to go on this side and a vertical pocket. This is the vertical pocket one. For the vertical pocket, you need 3.5 by 9 3/4. We're going to score this on the 3.5 at 3 and then score both ends at 1/2 inch. And then we will do our mitering. So you just need to miter these bottom corners at the cross section, and then because it's a pocket that goes vertical, I'm going to go ahead and miter the tops as well. So that's what you will end with. I'm going to fold out this paper. I'm going to have to put this on the side I wrote on. Some paper, even artisan sometimes, if you fold it one way, it has more give. And for some reason, that is what is happening here. I have a little more give on one side than I do on the other, so I'm going to go with it. So bring in your page, and let me just double check my original over here. Yes, so the pocket's going to be adhered to the left. I'm just going to blind fit this just to make sure that we're not too short or too long. And it is a little bit too long. So what we have, it should be 8 3/4. It's a teensy bit long. So my remedy for that is just, I'm going to put it in my scoreboard, and I'm going to rescore this line over just a tiny little bit, because that's the only amount I'm over. And then I'm going to re-burnish that edge with that new score line. And sometimes it takes a little to really get that paper to lay down for you. And because I did that, now I have a little bit of extra here that I need to miter. I don't want that to show. So now it should fit. Let's see. All the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. Still seems a little big to me. I'm not... Nope, it's fine. Okay. I'll pull my scoreboard out just for a moment and give this a really good burnish because it's a pocket. I want it nice and flush. Okay, so then we're just going to add glue to our gussets, just like always. All those 1/2 inch edges. And this one seems a teeny bit over, but that's okay. All right. Now you have your 1/4 inch. It's really hard to see on craft, on camera, but we have our 1/2 inch and our 1/4 inch. We want to butt this right next to that 1/4 inch. Not over, but right next to it. And then I put it on upside down, but that's okay. We're going to cover it with beautiful paper. No one will ever know what I wrote there. So that's what we'll have. We'll have our pocket. And then if it seems a little over, you can take the back of your bone folder and just kind of line it up with the paper by doing that. Easy peasy. Okay. And then we have a right side flap that needs to be scored. We have 5.5 by 8 1/4. We're going to score it at 1/2 on the 5.5. We don't need to do any burnishing here. I mean, any mitering. All you need to do with this one is blind fit it. Why do I keep putting things on upside down? I don't have any idea, but we're covering it with paper, so it's okay, right? I don't know why that keeps happening, but it does. This is quite a bit bigger than 8 3/4. Yes, it is. All right, I'm going to trim this because I cut mine a little bit long. It should be 8 3/4. Oh, goodness, I had a crash in here. All right, so that needs to be 8 3/4. For some reason, I had cut mine at almost 8 7/8, so it wouldn't fit on the page. Now we need to bring our base back in. And like I said, I have it upside down, but that's okay. Make sure it's going to line up, and it does. Simply add glue to that 1/2 inch gusset. And I am going to line this up on my scoreboard at first, just to get a good idea of where I need to be. And then I will pick it up and make sure it's in line, and it is. And once I have it all in line, I will go ahead and burnish it. And there we'll have, now this will have a magnet. I don't know why I wrote it on that side, probably because I was supposed to score on this side. But this is what we'll have. We'll have our magnet here, magnet on the pocket, and that will close like so. Okay? Next we have our B side, so make sure when you turn this over that you're doing this the right direction. So your pocket should be to your left, your flap should be to your right. Flip this over. You don't want to put anything on upside down. Not quite sure. Pocket page. I'm not using that. Let's see. Oh yes, this one is top and bottom flaps. So you will have 6.5 by 4 7/8 twice. Okay. On that 4 7/8, you want to score. We want this to be exactly 1/2 inch, but I do not want these to be more than 4 3/8. So I want to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and score these at 4 3/8, and then I'm going to turn this and see how close to 1/2 I got. Yeah, it's exact. So I did cut these better. So just put those in at the 4 7/8 and score them at 4 3/8. Okay. No need for mitering. You can if you like. And these two flaps measure 6.5 by 4 7/8, and they are scored on that 4 7/8 at 1/2 inch, like I showed you, or you can turn them and do them at the 4 3/8 to make sure. Okay, these, I need to make sure that yes. These will go on the top and the bottom. So go ahead. See, I didn't get a good score there. And I can tell because it doesn't want to fold. Your scoring makes all the difference sometimes. Okay. Most of the time. And I get both of these folded and burnished and all that good stuff. Now, these are going to go, one will go on the top, so you want to line that one up. And I feel, again, like I did not score well enough on this line here. So I'm going to put this in again. And just make sure that I am getting a good score at that 4 3/8. I don't want any overlapping of the two in the middle of our page, kind of like our little pocket, tag pockets. We don't want to have that problem. So I'm going to add glue to the 1/2 inch. And again, make sure I am looking at this correctly. Go right up to that corner. And over to the side of that one, right next to your 1/4 inch gusset, or excuse me, your 1/4 inch score line. And then we can go ahead and press that down. If they overlap a tiny bit, it's not a big deal. I just am picky about that. I didn't get quite enough glue here. All right. And then the other one will go in on the bottom. So we're just going to add glue once again to that 1/2 inch. Like so. Bring it all the way to the edge of the page on the bottom. So it's in line with the other one. And they seem to overlap a teeny tiny bit, but not too bad. All right. And that is what you'll have here. So then we will just have 2 more pieces, and they are going to be vertical pockets that go on the inside of the spine on both the front cover, I'll get this upside down, the front cover and the back cover. So those, there's going to be 2 pieces, and they are 4 by 10. You will score both of these at 1/2 inch all the way down on the 4, and then you want 1/2 inch, and I'm going to do, you can flip it around and do 1/2. I don't know what I was thinking there. Okay, do that for both. So all the way down 1/2 at the 4, and then we're going to flip it around and score it 1/2. Flip it around again and score it 1/2, so that you're scoring 1/2 on 3 sides, just like so. And then those will be mitered all the way around, like most pockets. And then when we do our decorating, these will go in the book. So I am going to go ahead and show you where these will go. I just need to get my burnishing done here. So these will go, one will go on this spine so that a photo mat can go in here, and the other one will go on this side, and a photo mat will go in. Okay, so up on the next portion of the next video, I will have the walkthrough. No, never mind. So on the next video, I will be doing the decorating, and I will cut it out. I'm probably not going to glue it all down on camera. You saw that in the walkthrough, the first video. So I'm just going to cut it all out, give you the sizes, show you where I'm going to put them. Okay, so stay tuned for that.